saying something.
Oh, I like
Celtics
that.
had a nice little franchise.
Okay. That sounds so demeaning.
I mean, one ring.
Meanwhile, fireworks for the Fever. Caitlin Clark gets poked in the eye. Sophie Cunningham comes to her rescue at the end of the game. Gets thrown out.
Yeah. Sophie Cunningham also, it's not fake news. She did have a black belt at age 6. That's true.
Really?
Yeah, that's true.
No way.
Missouri's own.
A black
No
belt
way.
at age 6?
Taekwondo.
No
It
way.
is true. I didn't believe it either. I did a lot of research on this.
How good could you be at karate at
Taekwondo, first of
At Taekwondo at 6?
She had
enough
to
to be a
start
black
really
belt.
That means you have to have
She
a
was
purple
the-
belt at like 3.
No, she was the
Right.
youngest
That's
in
hard to
state
believe.
history, and Missouri's known for its Taekwondo.
A 4-year-old's going to take you down.
I'm just telling
a
you.
4-year-old purple
I'm
belt.
just telling you, Sophie
That
Cunningham
is not true.
would whoop your ass.
I don't trust
That's
that.
what I'm saying.
Not at 6. She would.
That dojo has a very
I'm just
loose
glad this
belt
didn't
policy.
get. I'm glad this didn't get out
I'm
of
just
hand.
telling you,
and I didn't
modern
know
day
she
Sophie
had all that.
Cunningham would drag you around this room.
Who knows? But she was, 3 feet tall. And if she did, she should have.
6-year-old black belt.
No
take you out.
way.
Yes, the answer is yes.
I can't. No.
No.
No. I'm sorry.
Even that little head
No
full of dude.
6-year-old. No. I don't care what they know.
No way. LeBron talks about ring culture, but it was only for a few minutes, okay?
Wilds is taking shots at LeBron.
No, I was not.
Yeah, Wilds, your tweet is your tweet.
Oh.
That wasn't
Wilds.
private conversation. That was your tweet.
I'm not taking a shot.
What are you doing?
What was the tweet? Let me determine whether or not it was a shot, because I don't follow Wild. So I kind of do. I never see a tweet. What was it?
I'm not going to recite it.
Oh, it was that bad.
No, it wasn't that bad, but you should follow me.
It said,
it's like how we
here's
get
a
YouTube
paraphrase.
subscribers.
He was like, Mind the Game is going to be a deep, introspective look in basketball, insights the likes of which you can't get elsewhere. Next up, why rings don't matter. It's something.
That's funny. That is funny. It is funny. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it.
We start with Haliburton.
WILDES.
Strained calf. Carlisle says he's going to be a game-time decision, but Tyrese determined to play. Take a listen.
Nothing more than you've already seen. I practiced today, did what I could. I know Coach told you guys what the process will be tomorrow for me to play, and we're just taking it from there.
How smart do you have to be, I guess, in this situation, or are you not even thinking in those terms at this point?
Well, I think it depends on who you ask. I mean, you're asking me, so I think I have to be as smart as I want to be. I have to understand the risks, ask the right questions. But I'm a competitor. I want to play. I'm going to do everything in my power to play.
Yeah.
Should he play?
Yes. Yeah, it's not the NFL where you only have so many game day roster spots. And where if you, a quarterback, I don't know if I can go. And it's like, well, okay, we're going to put you on the active roster, but if you can't go, now all of a sudden we only have one backup or what. It's not that. So he wants to play. I watched him in Game 5 during the game, then again before our show, and then before our show Tuesday, whenever it was. And then this morning I did, thanks to NBA.com, does a great job where you can just watch cut-ups of individual players, everything they did. I watched it all again today. And there is a noticeable, at times, bit of laboring.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of plays that you have no idea, did that happen in the first 6 minutes of the game before he aggravated the injury or after? And so I am not questioning, to be very clear, I'm not questioning his toughness or anything like that. It's quite the opposite. He wants to play. It's the finals. It's the elimination game of the finals. It's arguably the biggest game in the history of your franchise in the NBA in that arena, in a home game at the very least.
In the NBA,
right? In the NBA, it is the biggest home Pacer game ever. Exactly. And if you don't have it, and even as a decoy or you're passing, you're not effective, then you can be sat down. there is no down. You know what I mean? To me, there's no. It's not like, well, you're only allowed to play 8 guys and you play him. Like, so, yes, he should play.
I do feel like as a responsible adult, I have to say, look, we're not doctors. I defer to the doctors. Obviously, the thing, and the thing that I gotta say, if the doctors are like, look.
But agree. I don't
know
think
what I mean?
the doctors are.
And we've seen doctors let Kevin Durant go and play when obviously, again, not a doctor. And I was like, this is crazy. I think all of us probably were like, how are you letting Kevin Durant out there? Everybody conceded against Toronto.
Do you feel like that was, nobody wants to say it, right? Because it's like you don't want to curse it or like put it in the universe. But did you feel like that last report was like, hey, or the last question that he answered was talking about serious long-term injury?
I think they're looking at the long-term, because that's what everybody thinks of, is that do you overcompensate for the calf? It turns into a tear of the calf or an Achilles injury. Now, clearly, Durant seemed much more serious than this.
Yeah,
because as you said,
Durant
missed a lot of time. Even when Durant played against Toronto, and we're talking about those finals in, what was that, 2019? He was, even the 11 minutes he played, he could only run in a straight line. Like, he was no lateral movement. Like you said, Nick, Tyrese Haliburton played essentially an entire game, 27 minutes or so, on this calf injury, and you didn't, like I said yesterday,
27 minutes after the injury.
Yeah, and his approach, the way he was playing was not that much different than how he had played throughout the series. He was not as aggressive as you'd like, but he wasn't aggressive for most of the series. So just setting that qualifier aside, I'm with Nick. I do think he should play. Look, Aaron Gordon played in Game 7 in the West on this hamstring injury, and the doctors were telling, nobody thought he should play, and he insisted on playing.
It was like a heroic effort.
Yeah, it
really
was. And he was limited, but he still went out there. Yeah, he did help him and give him a shot. Here's what I say to Haliburton, and I'm sure he's thought about this. And maybe he hasn't thought about it because he's so young. This may be your last trip to the NBA Finals. 5 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago, Phoenix with a young Devin Booker, a young DeAndre Ayton, a young Mikal Bridges was in the finals against the Bucks. I'm sure they thought, we'll get back. And look at that franchise now. They're a mess.
Oklahoma City the first time around.
Yeah.
Everybody's 23 or under, and you assume you're going to be there.
You don't know. You may never get back. So, and look, if Haliburton can be effective, they have a shot.
So that's what I'm worried about. I agree with you guys that it's like, hey, pedal to the metal, try it. The question is if he can be effective. So here are the numbers. And again, it's one game. I think if he was, he might have these numbers in a game that he didn't have a calf injury. That's what's so unique about his game. But off the court, they were +2 when he was on the court, -13. The defensive rating is a big swing, so he couldn't guard anybody, it looks like. The turnover ratio, oddly, was high when he was on the court. I initially thought I was blaming the Nembhard turnovers on the fact that he wasn't involved
in Siakam also had a bunch, and I think those were with him on the court. I think Siakam had 6.
Gotcha. Okay. So the question that I have for you is, I wrote this down, and you tell me what you think. To see if he can be effective, can he get by anybody? Can he shoot a 3? And the one clip that we showed was an open 3 that he gave it up. And can he defend? How quickly can you get answers to those questions?
I think the defend, you can get answers very quickly. You know what I mean? Is he just unplayable defensively? But I did not think, let me put it like this. If you watched that game on mute and you picked it up at halftime, would you have said,
that's a great question,
Haliburton's hurt? You know what I mean?
I hear you, but it is, I mean, we have no reason to think they're lying. It's an injury.
No.
It is a legitimate injury. I agree with you. But
the reason I say that, I should clarify, is it's not as if in the second half of that game, to me, maybe I have an untrained eye, I looked at him like, oh, man, the Thunder are just torching him individually defensively because he's hampered. Like, he is targeted amongst the guys who play for the Pacers. He's one of the weaker defenders, so they do try to target him. One of the things, though, I would say, because of his style, he is a guy that I would think might be able to have an impact at less than 100% because, like Bruce says, he's not an over-dribbler. He is trying to get the ball, push it up court. Right. He is a great passer.
But they also need to win.
He what?
They need to win the game. He needs to score 20 points for them to win the game.
I don't know if he can score 20.
Well, he certainly can't score 20 if he doesn't play, KW.
But Nick hit it on the head. If he's not effective, then you can just get him out of there.
Yeah.
And you might put him back in at some point, but, you know, you can get him in and out. You got to give it a try, though.
Just real quick before we move on LeBron, the kind of like high school debate style of the counter argument to be made that none of us made would be, and I think this is interesting, because winning tonight is nice, but you need to win twice.
That's good.
If one of the doctors says, listen, yeah, we're not worried about, you know, devastating long-term injury, but if he plays today, we can almost guarantee you, however limited he is today, he will be just as, if not more limited on Sunday. But if you give it 5 days between Game 5, then you might have 100% Haliburton for Sunday. That to me then becomes more of a basketball Carlisle strategy decision. You know what I mean? Of like, is our better chance of getting 2 wins?
I'd still try to play him.
Me too.
I'd still play him.
It's like how, you know, you don't put money into your 401k. Just spend that. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think that's the good.
Oh.
It's not. We're not a fiduciary.
LeBron talked to Steve Nash on the Mind the Game podcast and answered a question from Dustin, not our Dustin, a fan named Dustin. Why is ring culture so much more prevalent in the NBA than any other sport? Here was LeBron's answer.
I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport and why it's the A-all, B-all of everything. Like, okay, you weren't a great player if you never won a championship. Yeah. It's like, or if you won one, then you can't be in the same conversation with this person. Allen Iverson and Charles Barkley and